You know, the more I watch wrestling, the more I get Bobby Eaton's stomach.
You know, that's the thing, because Bobby could see, he worked the dog food match with Mad Dog Boyd in Memphis, where the loser has to eat a can of dog food, right?
Yeah, Alpo.
And of course, because Mad Dog was the baby face and Bobby was the heel and Jimmy Hart's his manager, he has to lose and eat the can of dog food. And everybody knew about Bobby's stomach. So what they did was they got a can of like Denny Moore beef stew or whatever. And I can't remember who did this, but somebody carefully sliced the label and put it around, put the dog food label around the can of Denny Moore beef stew. So all he's got to do is eat beef stew, right?
He's got to work.
It's a work,
yeah.
Right? But the problem is they open the can right there to make everybody think it's legitimate, and it's cold beef stew anyway. And he's looking at the dog food label, and the cold beef stew out of the can is not the most appetizing thing you've ever had. And he started throwing it back up in the ring as he was trying to put it. Every time he shovel a fucking fork in his mouth, and he would and it would spew back out. So he didn't even have to really eat the beef stew, but the people enjoyed it more because they really believed it was dog food, because he's legitimately throwing up in the but anyway, he could look at if you told him, hey, Bobby, doesn't this Colonel Sanders chicken gravy look just like baby shit? He'd throw up at that, just at the comparison.
Well, I'm getting there, especially if I watch any more Raw.
Oh boy, you know what? We'll do this at the top of the show, because it's not like we have to wait for the reviews, and I don't have a very good order of events here on the program after my week. We'll talk about that later on. But just the only thing that anybody discussed off of last week's or this past Monday's Raw episode was old Otis throwing up after I'm led to believe a hot dog eating contest because it was 4th of July. Is this what happened beforehand?
I know there was some sort of eating contest. I also know I decided not to watch Raw in any form or fashion this week, but I believe from what I read and I saw a photo, there was some sort of backstage eating contest. Again, Vince McMahon asserting his control over the creative content of the show.
Well, I saw the clip on Twitter of like 7 seconds of there's Otis doing the and blowing some what I assume to be fake vomit, because I assume it was a planned spot. And as I sat down and I said, after the week that I've had, am I going to speed search through a 3-hour Raw episode just to watch some fat fucking preliminary guy spit up fake puke? And the answer I gave myself was no. So for all of you waiting for the commentary on the puking on Raw, we're going to do more conversation later on in the program today about what's making the executives in Titan Tower throw up. But you know, that's with Vince, I don't know what it is with the bodily functions that he finds so hilarious. Because remember poor Darren Drozdov. I'm not a big football fan, and it's not. Droz is a great guy, and you know, I enjoyed every time I ever worked with him or was around him or whatever. But I'm not knocking him when I say this. He wasn't like Joe Namath or a famous football player that I would have known, right? So I'd never heard his name before, and everybody's seen the video. What was it on where they were showing Vince said he's gonna puke
Beyond the Mat? Barry Blaustein was in the room.
That was in Beyond the Mat, where he was, because that was like 97, 98, that time period when Droz came in. But the first time I had heard about him, Bruce Pritchard was like, we've signed this guy, Darren Drozdov. Oh, who's that? Well, he played whatever his football background was. But he gave a brief dissertation at best, just a mention of his football background and, you know, what a great athlete he was, all that stuff. But he goes straight to, and he can puke on command. And I looked at him I said, he can do what? And he can puke anytime he wants to. I said, well, actually, first, in my mind, I started making the comparison. Okay, we've signed this guy to do an angle, big like when George the Animal Steel was doing the chicken wing.
Rick Bolton was the guy with the shoulder.
Was it Rick? Okay, there, folks. For if you're new listeners, George the Animal Steel back in the 70s, maybe late 60s, whatever the time period, many years ago, used a chicken wing as his finish, and he knew a guy that could pop his own shoulder out of socket on command and it didn't hurt him or whatever. And so George, whenever he would be working a territory, he did this a few times, he would have them bring the guy in and he'd pop the guy's shoulder out with his finish, and it was obviously visually fucked up, and that would get the finish over. And so for a second, I thought, so we're going to do some kind of angle where this, for some reason, a guy has a move that targets the stomach and this guy's going to puke. But then I thought, well, that doesn't make it. We've signed him. You can only do that once before it would get old. And I said, how is that a selling point? And he said, Vince saw the story or saw the publicity on this and just thought that was the greatest thing. And that was one of the main, and of course, Droz was a great athlete. And like I said, a great guy and strong as a bull. And he never got the time to be a great worker because he was only in the business, maybe a year and a half or whatever the time period was, 2 years. But he, could have got there, but he had a future. But the problem was, I remember the first time they tried to get him to do it, he couldn't do it because he would do it in football. I guess he'd get nervous and he'd throw up before the game, and that would make him feel better somehow. And that's how he came up with that talent. But then when they're trying to, all eyes are on him and the TV cameras and they're trying to get it, and he couldn't fucking do it. And I think one time he almost hurt himself working up a fucking little dismal amount of, he should have gone to eat at fucking, Taco Bell or something. But anyway, so I don't know what Vince's thing is about the bodily functions, the fart jokes, the shit, the trying to, we all try to fart on each other every once in a while for fun. No matter what.
Not all of us. Not all of us.
What?
I don't do that for fun.
You have never tried to crop dust somebody that you were trying to fuck with. You just slide over to them and hope that it's a silent but deadly one that they won't really hear and that they'll be enveloped in it before they know what's happened to them. You've never done that?
Not only have I never done that, if I have to pass gas, I'm going to leave the room so that for the rest of everyone in that room's lives, they're going to have to wonder if I ever pass gas because they're not going to know. Not I'm going to spread it around and brag about it and
what about if
shove it on you.
What about if you've got one that's like the decibel level of a Who concert? It'll sound like a fucking foghorn on a steamship off the coast of San Francisco in the Barbary Coast days, and you're going to be proud of that? You want people to hear that.
Nope. Like I said, I would walk out of the room, and if it was something to be proud of, it would be self-pride that I'll share with myself. No one else needs to hear that or smell that or be around that.
I'm a big fart fan. I cleared 4 grown adult professional wrestlers out of a fucking Ford Econoline van with one fart one time, I'll have you know it. The Louisiana humidity helped, but they jumped out. Oh. They left it to the point where the people next to us thought that there was a goddamn holdup or something taking place. 4 grown men jumped out of 4 different doors of a van all at the same time. I was in the back with my fucking Colonel Sanders. Back when Colonel Sanders used to have those good chicken nuggets and you dip them in the Colonel Sanders gravy that looked to Bobby Eaton like baby shit, and eat that 20-piece box, and boy, and then you're enclosed in the walls of a padded walls because it was customized of a Ford Econoline van at a gas station. Boy, there you go. Anyway, so that was Raw. That story actually was more entertaining than Raw was on Monday, and it didn't take me 3 hours to tell it, did it?
The other thing about Droz is, so much was made, obviously, of the ability to puke on command or on demand or whenever you want. They gave him the name Puke. Wonderful. You know, hawk, animal, and puke. That didn't work so well. But the other problem is, and I'm not a fan of vomit, as we've exhibited here today, but it wasn't even that impressive. Like, even when it worked, even like in Vince's office, on TV, whenever, I never saw like a big, like, holy shit, he just spewed. It was always like, it looks like he just smoked a cigarette and he has to spit up a little bit. That's what it always looked like to me.
It was never the projectile skipping over the floor and going straight to the wall type of thing that would be like a Stewie Griffin, Brian Griffin Family Guy puke fest. Something like it was never like that.
But hey, anyway. you're a big fart fan. You're obviously talking about various.
I'm an aficionado of the farting arts.
And you're talking about some of the fart activities you've been involved with. You've been in a car a lot of times with Vince McMahon. What about his fart etiquette?
You know, that's the thing for a guy that not only likes him so much, but also shit himself one time at the gorilla position, trying to do that to Jerry Briscoe, who's another noted weak stomach. I don't remember Vince, and a protein powder aficionado as he was, I don't remember Vince ever letting anything of impressive volume or consistency or aroma. I know he remarked on a couple of mine a few times, but that's probably, it's probably all that bland food that he ate. Just basically bland, unseasoned meat and carbs to fucking work out on.
Or maybe his ass was just really tight thinking about all the money he's sending out to women all over the place.
Oh, wait, we'll talk about that later on. He wasn't doing that when I was around him. Boy, I'll tell you what, there was...
WCW priced blowjobs. Come on.
Holy mackerel.